So we've started to consider what information architecture is and what it looks like in published websites. We understand that information architecture is the link between organising, labelling and presenting the information in our website. Nelson and Laranja explain that with systematic design, people find and manage the information effortlessly. The labelling, layout and relationship between the pages are clearly represented. This means that people know where they are in the website. They can see where the information is that they need and can see how to get where they want to go. Nelson and Laranja continue that an appropriate information architecture makes people comfortable to explore and confident that they can easily return to previously viewed pages. They also explain that the most effective sites at directing people to the right place are those that match the user expectation, explaining it's common for sites to make perfect sense to the creator, but not to their end user. With this in mind, you need to ensure you consider your user requirements you identified last week in developing your information architecture. When you categorize your site and develop the information architecture, you automatically come up with titles for your categories. And so what should they be called? If you look at this slide, all these terms are relevant to clothing, and so they could be appropriate in a website. So which one do you choose? You need to select the term that would be most relevant to your audience. What would the people viewing this site relate to? Also, Nelson and Pernice give the following advice. You should be consistent with your terms. Don't combine single noun titles with verb noun titles. For example, don't have clothing listing alongside by bedding. You need to make it clear that it is a list of items that are for sale at the beginning, and then you don't need to include that in each title. Finally, people tend to skim read websites, and they may not read past your first word, so you need to make sure that your first word is the most important. So coming up with consistent names is part of the process. But how do you organise the information? There are a variety of techniques that can be used, and Krug in 2000 suggests starting by flowcharting the user experience. This technique enables you to understand how they are likely to use the site, their expectations, and identify potential areas of frustration so that these can be overcome. If we think about our cookery book, we may come up with this flowchart. Here we can see that somebody would enter the site, they'll look for the right selection, look for the recipe, find the recipe and cook the dish. But is it as simple as that? What happens if they can't find the recipe? Then that will create confusion and they may end up going to another site. So you need to anticipate how people will search for that recipe. A second technique is to create a hierarchy diagram of your website, fairly similar to the one shown here. Starting with the home page, which we will look at more detail in the final topic of this course. And then we consider what categories are going to be of interest. As this example is on the recipe website, we've grouped our content into type of dish, starter, main course, side dish, pudding and so on. And we've also added sections to enable viewers to find out more about us and contact us. Remember, your decisions on how to structure your website must relate to the needs of the different website customers you identified last week. You may decide that you need further breaking down of your categories. And in this diagram, the starters are broken down into fish, meat, soup and vegetarian dishes. This is introducing a second level of navigation, also known as secondary navigation. And it can help people to find the information they need easier. But it is also adding additional complexity. So you need to consider the user experience, as it has the potential of assisting or frustrating your customer. We have looked at a couple of tools and techniques of information architecture, but this is not a comprehensive list. There are other tools or techniques that might be equally relevant, such as mind mapping, or even tables or bullet lists to express your ideas. Think about how you can communicate your ideas effectively as you move into the next activity of designing the information architecture for your website.